Oh, I'm so happy everybody likes it because I'm like, if I'm the only one who likes this movie, I'm crazy. I'm
No,
crazy.
you. I don't see how anyone how this
I'm
movie
gonna
could
look. I'm gonna
crumble.
look for the critics later. I
Ah,
am. And be
critics
like,
just.
this. My name's Stephanie, and this is why you're a bitch and wrong. Hello, welcome to another episode of A Ghost in the Magazine. I'm Steph,
And I'm Elle. I'm Molly.
and we're covering When Evil Lurks. And I've been dying to cover this movie. This is my favorite possession movie.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. I haven't said that out loud until right now. This is my favorite possession movie. It scares the bejesus out of me, and I have like a very, very visceral response when I watch it. This is only my second time and I had to watch this one in breaks because this movie
Yeah.
is not for it's not for the faint of heart.
Yucky complimentary.
Yes.
The one thing I will say is that it seems to have pretty elaborate world building to it that isn't very well explained.
Mhm.
And that is I had to go back and watch a YouTube video that explained it just because, and I think part of that is
Mm.
my brain trying to process like having to read the whole movie on top of like trying to like get everything
Yes.
in, and I think it's just like too much for one watch for me. I think I would probably need to watch this a couple of times to actually like get into the groove of it, and that honestly is not something I want to do because I don't really want to watch the kid getting attacked by the dog a couple of times. I don't need to see the pus coming out of the guy a couple of times. I mean, I saw it like a million times in there, but there's just a lot of stuff in here that is like not something I need to see again.
They did a really good job of building the tension towards the dog, and I genuinely sort of did a little bit of when it happened, and then there was the whole like it gets more close up on her, and but I really liked it.
A lot happens. A lot happens in this movie. I got a lot out of it, like watching it a second time. But also like I'm not I'm not fluent, but I am Puerto Rican. So if I'm not directly looking at the screen, I can still understand a lot of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still reading it, but I can still hear the Spanish and know what's going on. But there are definitely some words and phrases I've never heard before because it is very elaborate and this is almost giving like it's giving very believable apocalyptic in a difference. It's like not zombies, not like virus, but like that this is a faithless world where the churches are dead and like there is this, I don't want to say rich, but kind of like ritualistic way that demons can enter the earth.
Yeah.
And it's deeply unsettling to me. And it's not just demons,
Mm-hmm.
it leaches into everything. And that's because they feed off of your fear. So whatever you're afraid of, and it's not a surface level thing with like a lot of possession movies. This movie really gets me to my core, and the end of this movie absolutely fucks me up. I'm not like it gets me in a way that I don't know if I'm going to be able to articulate, but I really hope that I can because this movie is so good. Like if there was a horror film class, I would want I would want them, like, I would recommend to cover this movie because I would love to hear other people's perspectives. I hate when people are so quick because this had a lot of buzz when it came out, rightfully so. I don't think that there are a lot of movies like this one, but I hate when people are like, "Oh, it's popular, it's a possession, I'm gonna go in and be like, it's trash, it didn't even scare me." And I'm like, what what is not horrifying in this movie? So this movie, I say it's my favorite and I want it on DVD, but not to watch it all the time because I'm delicate. And this upsets my delicate sensibilities, but because movie is a treasure. Okay, the relationship between these two brothers, So I said it's like basically a different kind of apocalyptic situation that I think is so interesting. I think it's very unique, and they live in a rural community, and it's with the shits immediately. You're introduced to the way that this world functions. So basically, if there is a possessed one, un encarnado, then they notify the authorities notify the cleaners, and the cleaner comes and has to dispose of this unclean spirit appropriately, with this weird instrument. And we know from the end that there is like a special knife. It's very much giving the omen, that you have to get into the possessed one's neck to alleviate it of the spirit. If you don't, or if you break one of the 7 rules, which I'm gonna go over because I had wrote those down, I think it's so interesting that there's so many rules. And I think that all possession has rules. I just think that the movies don't give a shit about
Mhm.
follow the rules. So I love that. When they don't follow the rules, there's very clear consequences. And so if you don't follow the rules, the possessed, like if you kill it, the possessed one, the unclean spirit is born. So it's like the unborn. It's born in a child body, and now it's on earth so that it can wreak havoc and do whatever it wants. So we don't want that to happen. And like if you break any of the rules or you get in the way, like you're gonna suffer. Okay? So these are the rules. Don't use electric lights. Don't stay close to animals. Don't take anything that was close to the possessed one. So like if they had money and you stole their money, then you're in danger, girl. Don't hurt them. Don't ever say the evil by its name. Don't shoot them with firearms, and don't be afraid of dying. Like you can't be afraid because they'll take that fear and they feed off of it. Like you're making it stronger.
Yeah.
So there's this blob of a man named Uriel.
That's the great thing. He's named after an archangel. The other thing is the one of the demonic names that they give is actually
Yeah,
like a name of not really a
Azrael.
demon. Yeah, it's not really a demon. It's the
Yes,
angel of death. So,
right. So I think it's all super interesting. Like
mhm.
I really, really do. And I feel like you could dive into the layers of this movie if when you can get over the initial horror of everything, if you can. Because I was terrified going into this movie because any movie that has a lot of hype around it for like, oh, this is really gonna get you, I'm scared because I'm like, my imagination is usually worse than whatever's on the screen. That was not the case this
Um,
time. When you see his big, I could smell him through the screen, his big, nasty, bloated
you know,
body.
the worst part of that, like all of it was bad. Like seeing the pus coming out of him was bad and stuff, but like when they picked him up on that sheet
Oh
and you
my
could
God.
see the stuff coming out the bottom, like that drip. I was eating when I started this movie.
There.
And I got to the point, I got to the dog biting the kid, and that's where I had to stop. But I did stop eating for a while because Uriel was so disgusting. He was
He
gross.
just he just kind of looks like someone who comes into the bookies where I work.
What?
Golly,
They're really disgusting in there.
that's really gross because that's really unfortunate. I know there are people who like don't bathe for
Yeah.
for for all kinds of reasons. And he didn't even say much. Like he didn't say anything in the beginning. And for him to have such a presence, he was so
Didn't need
disgusting.
to. It was amazing. He just
Mm-hmm.
needed to breathe that really horrible, raspy
Yeah.
way that he was doing it, and that was enough to like unnerve me.
Yeah.
It makes my stomach hurt. Before they even get there though, they find like a chopped up body, like just legs
Yeah.
and the instrument of the cleaner. And so they're like, what the heck? And so they, go to so it's a mom and her 2 sons, like a young son and then this messed up guy. So they go, I forget the guy's name, Armando?
I don't
There's like a
remember.
guy who owns the, let's call him
Oh
Armando. It might
yeah.
not be right. He owns like the property, and these brothers are just like, we have to report it. Like, what are we gonna do? And Armando loses his mind. You heard me say the rules, okay? And this is not like a new scenario. They've been dealing with but they think that they're safe because they're in a rural location. So they're like a possessed one here. How in my experience, demons don't care where you are. They're not city boys specifically. So they could pop up anywhere, and
So the interesting thing about this,
oh boy.
when I was watching a video that was like explaining the lore to me, I found
Hmm.
out that the intention of the writer and director was to like actually talk about capitalism in a way, and like the way that like property was over people, because the main character treats his kids like property. They are you can't take any
Yeah.
property off of the corpse or else it spreads the disease. The
Hmm.
landowner is acting on behalf of his property. He thinks the government's coming in to try to take the property away. The government is only acting when they can protect property, and they don't care about this particular, because it is rural. They don't have to go out there and do it. It's not something that's going to spread, right? And so I thought it was very interesting. I didn't have to read the anti-capitalism into this one. I just, apparently that was the director's intent, which I thought was very interesting. Everyone thought it was like COVID critique, but it was
Oh.
actually anti-capitalism, which I think is because he was talking
I
about the
didn't
way that it was like poverty's devastating these rural communities in Argentina.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
I didn't actually notice. I didn't actually get any like COVID vibes off of
me
it, but I
neither.
Me
didn't
either.
really. I didn't know when this came out, so I didn't know.
2023?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
it
it
was
was last
I
year.
see what
recent-ish.
I see why people might have thought that, but when you're watching it like out of that sort of going into with that mindset, you just don't pick up anything like that at all.
Yeah. It goes from like 0 to 60. And with Armada, like he messed everything up. They wanted it to be like cut and dry. Like we don't actually know the procedure, but they called this in a year prior to like fix the guy. And the poor mom, I can imagine living in a house with that and the
Mm-hmm.
smell.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's a demon in them. There's
Yeah.
a demon in it. She was taking care of him so he didn't die, so that the cleaner could do the thing and the pestilence wouldn't spread.
Yeah.
But then Armando, he's like, no, we're gonna take this guy. And they load him up into a truck, almost run a child over, and then he just disappears. But I hated that scene because he's gone, but his sludge is all over the
Yeah.
truck,
It's nasty.
just dripping down. And I was
I
like, I swear to God, I can smell it.
I hate to bring this up too. This reminded me of an episode of Trailer Park Boys when they rolled Sam Lasco up in a rug and put him on the top of Ricky's car, and then he flies off in the rug, and they think he's dead, and then he comes back.
Brother. Brother.
I always have to bring the Trailer Park Boys or the Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. That's my favorite thing. Obviously, the thing that this man fears is his children contracting anything happening to his children, even though he was a deadbeat dad and disappeared for 4
Yeah.
fucking years.
So he marches it right into them. I'm sorry, but he is a fucking
Well,
idiot.
he did, he could have just they didn't have anything to do with it, and he
Mm-mm.
brought his musty ass into their home, and I hated. No, yeah, he's a musty, dusty, crusty.
He
Okay,
is.
uh, I don't care. Like honest, can I be so for real? When you get to the end of this movie, I don't feel I love the brotherhood that they share, but as people, I don't think that either of them are good people because this guy was definitely screwing this guy's baby mama.
Yeah.
When he hits her with the car and she's like, "You said you love me," I was like, "This is juicy goss." Like the demons will bring the drama. They really will. Like how could you? How
Okay, so this is very interesting too, because remember how I critiqued in the last one that they treat the demons like fucking idiots? The
Yeah,
demons were rather crafty in this one.
dude,
They were
stop. It makes
so
my chest
good
hurt.
at cheating everyone. Yeah.
Manipulation. Oh my God. It actually, I feel like throwing up every time I think about the thing that I'm trying not to talk about yet. Every time, it makes me literally want to throw up because it scares me so bad. It unsettles me so bad. I'm surprised I haven't thrown up watching this movie yet. Like my insides just the children. The
Yeah.
ch the children. Okay, like I know the dog scene is wild, especially because they like it happens in flashes, and just the way that he gets her, and then when the little boy's losing his shit, and he's like, "Hello, grown up, listen to me. The dog has got Vicky," and then they show him under the table just shaking her,
Just
like
shaking his head, yeah.
got her in his mouth, shaking the shit, and I'm like, "Oh, oh!" Like I think I screamed the first time, even though I knew something was gonna happen. It hurts my chest. It hurts my chest right now.
Yeah.
I can't.
It, it's bad.
It's so jarring. It's so bad. It is so, I was like, tops the baby in the sadness. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. This one,
Where
that
Sorry.
was where I had to stop.
when they were being possessed, they didn't use that stupid growly voice that they give possessed people in
Yeah.
movies. It was like, oh, like a really deep voice in a little girl. I like that they use their actual voices because that is more
Deceptive.
like what little
Yeah.
I know about actual possession that's represented through the Catholic Church, which is where I unfortunately get most of my knowledge from. But it's like the whole thing is that they're clever and that
Hmm.
they're trying to damn your soul, so they're trying to get you to believe and trust them and, well, you know,
Or to lull
to
you.
corrupt your soul too. So
Hmm.
they wouldn't their heads wouldn't spin around and they wouldn't do that weird like backwards walk thing that she does down the stairs.
Their
They
eyes wouldn't get those,
Yeah, the weird
demon
slitted
contacts.
pupils. They wouldn't start cussing you out and stuff. They would
They might
act
cuss you
much
out a little.
they would act they would act mostly like they think you want them to act.
Hmm.
And that's why I found it really interesting when the kids I don't know what disability the kid
He's
had.
autistic. Don't talk about it yet.
Okay. Oh, is that what you're trying
Yes.
to
Oh my
talk
God. For the
about?
love of God. Yes.
I'm
Okay.
just going to say that it was really interesting that they couldn't figure out how the mind worked, then it took them
Yeah.
longer to possess them, because I found that really interesting. And also it means I is demon proof.
No, it doesn't. It means you're demon resistant. There's a
Oh,
difference
yeah.
Damn
between
it.
waterproof and water resistant. Yeah, you're not safe.
I'm just saying I'm obviously demon proof because I've done a lot of divination and I am still not possessed. I'm just saying.
In this movie,
According
that's not
to the
the
exorcist.
thing. So, okay, there's several horrifying scenes that need to be spoken about. The dog. Um, what else? Okay, so no, sorry. The puffy body. The dog. When the mom comes to get her son,
Yeah.
and she's like, her face is fucked up, and the grandma's like, "Oh no, it's a demon," and she takes him and like takes off with him. When this brother reaches up there, they decide he's gonna go after her because he's not afraid of the kids, like losing the kids like he is, and that's gonna make the demon stronger. She's walking down the road in the darkness, carrying the little boy, eating his brains.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's the popcorn that I was munching on earlier, just not a thought in that
Yep.
brain, except
Girl dinner.
brains. Girl dinner! That's disgusting, Molly. No, that's disgusting. First of all, there's this really awesome woman named Mirta who was a cleaner for 12 years. She lost her husband in the process. She gives us the rundown, and it doesn't feel like a Lasher info dump.
Mm-mm.
They're in action and she's telling the story while it's happening.
Yeah.
And so then you get the rest of the scope of the world that they're currently in and how to defeat the demon. She gives the last rule, don't be afraid to die. And she's very about business. But these two chuckleheads should never be in charge of anything. They don't listen. Neither of them
No.
listen. And they're the reason that she dies and this demon is ultimately birds. I thought it was disgusting when he came out, like that little boy, the viscosity of the blood that was on his body and the dog licking it off of his hand and him leaving that handprint. All of it had my stomach bubbling. My
Yeah.
stomach was bubbling. The little kids hitting Mirta in the head with the hammer because that's a trap.
Yeah.
Hello. I think it's interesting that kids often protect the possessed ones.
I thought that was really interesting too, like from a
Okay.
world building point of view.
So, from an occult point of view, when you're older, you have programs running in your mind that were established when you were younger. And you have to learn how to deprogram your mind in order to do these different things with different occult practices, whether you're using just like new thought ideas like manifestation, or you're using occult like rituals, like even with demons, whatever. So to what I'm thinking is like a child, unprogrammed, easy to get into mind, no subconscious programming to have to redo. You're just going in and writing the program in that brain. It's just like the autistic brain was more difficult because there is existing programming that is not like what they would usually find in a human mind. So it's a programming they have to
Represent.
figure out. Yeah.
Sorry.
And so it's actually very interesting because it's like it's treating human beings like hardware and software, which is how most occultism actually treats human beings. You're having to reckon with not only like the different structures of a human brain and trying to figure out what magical like path would work for you, but you also have to like reckon with whatever you already have written into that, your particular type of brain. So that's why different paths work for different people. This is also like the idea of perennialism, and like different paths approach things in different ways. And so they can work in certain ways for certain people, but maybe not the same for other people. It actually kind of dovetails interestingly with that Exorcist Believer one, even though that was such a shit movie and they did such a shit job. It's just like the lore. These are two, I think that's the reason why I wasn't mad. These are two of the most like consistent with esoteric teaching movies that I've watched in a long time, because a lot of times they just shit all over it. Also, this one was respectful of demons, I feel like. It didn't make them be idiots.
Yeah, I always get a bit annoyed when the demon's stupid because it's humans that are stupid, not demons.
Yes. That's
I
why
just
demons are scary. It's just like with aliens. I think aliens are
yes.
terrifying because there's no way I can think around them. They're so much bigger than me intellectually. I can't find a way to reckon with them or put up any kind of a resistance. That's what makes demons scary. It's because they're smarter than you. They're two steps
Yes.
ahead of you. So when you make them fucking stupid, like with the Exorcist movies, I'm just like not as entertained. It's not as good of a storytelling mechanism. So
You might as well be fighting a dumb monster that someone created, like a
yes.
Cronenberg. It's just body horror at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually, if you the scariest thing in the world is something that you have to try and outsmart,
Yes.
because you have to first realize how they think and how to think ahead and around how they're thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like reasoning with a crazy person.
And the reason this is so good, and yeah, the reasoning with the see, that's what scares me about like when you come up against like corrupted humans and you don't know what you're dealing with, like what's behind their eyes, you can't read them the same way. Like when we watched another movie recently where we had that situation. There was like, oh, the first Omen with the
Uh,
babies that had the different like defects and stuff, and like
yeah.
what's going on behind, and then like of course being the child of Satan or whatever they were supposed to be. um It's just like, I think that the reason this particular movie though is so effective is because it hits on that body horror stuff that we're talking about, but it also
Mhm.
hits on the psychological. It's a 1-2 punch. It's not like a lot of movies will do one good and not the other. This one does both of them really well.
I think that just people don't have the patience to write slow burn horror.
Mm-hmm.
They want immediate gross out and like, oh, but this managed to sort of, it gave you the immediate gross out, but there was also that slow burning terror as you start to realize more about the world and why
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's the body horror.
Yep.
And well, this is just sort of circling around what we were talking about earlier, but it just works, and it felt simultaneously longer and shorter than it actually was. And I was really impressed that they managed to do so much in an hour and a half, whereas we had 2 hours with The Exorcist Believer, and you could have cut out
90%.
95% of that, I would argue, actually. And
Yes.
and it would have been
Same effect.
like 2% more effective.
Yeah.
100%. That's why I say I feel like that this movie could be studied. And sorry, this, I don't know if you could tell, but there were multiple points while you guys were talking where I almost passed away. It's
Sorry.
it's because not much really scares me, but the psychological part of this, like, I love hearing that's what makes demons scary, because I hate when people say, "Oh, demonic movies don't scare me." I'm like, shut up. Shut the fuck up
Sorry.
for 2 seconds. And I know I'll never say it to you, but I'll think it at you. Because,
I
like,
know.
no, just be quiet. It's some of them are not good, and that's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
This well, I could kiss this movie on the lips, but I don't know where its lips have been.
You don't want
It's
to.
just Oh, it's just so good. The thing that scares me the most is the end of this movie. The end of this movie, literally, it it crawled inside my body and it's still sitting in there going hee 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 hee, and I can't get it out. So they're defeated. It's not a happy ending.
Mm-mm.
He got near to killed, and the little demon boy said, I don't even have to kill you because there's not shit you can do about anything. Bye. And he has to go back to the house where they've literally lost everything. And they find the original little boy. It's this thing about children, this whole thing about children. Okay. You spoke about occult stuff very scientifically. I'm going to speak about it very woo woo. Okay. Children are sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hear it all over the internet. Neurodivergent children are very special and sensitive. There's something about the neurodivergence because your brain doesn't work the way a typical brain works, that kind of leaves you extra open, and or like special, like when they talk about indigo children or star seeds and things like that. And no, we don't have to
It's a little bit more woo, but it does remind,
it's
what you're saying reminds me of, saw an article about how the reason why autism might be a thing is because there are things that like neurotypical people, they'll write into like their cerebellum, and it's like just on default. And so autistic people or people with like dyslexia or other stuff, they can't write those routines down that way in your brain, so you have to be in them and think them and be in that moment the entire time
Mhm.
you're doing that task. And so you
Yeah.
have this ability to be more like to get better at it, but it takes a lot longer.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing about that is that once that demon unties the knot, as they say,
Yeah.
he's able to control Jair better than he could control anyone else, because
Yes.
his Jair
Yes.
has to live in the moment to
Yes.
process everything.
It's literally a super demon.
Yeah.
It's a super demon bomb in this autistic child. When Mirta looks at him in the car and she's like, "Hey, there's a demon. And they're like, yeah, we're going after it. No, in that child. Look at this boy for a second. Look at his hands and feet because the demon's trying to untie the knot. Chills, shivers, chills through my body. I have an autistic nephew. He's never going to get possessed, and he's a precious baby angel. But like, and I'm neurodivergent. These
Mhm.
things are, and my mom's
Same.
always talking about, and we're sensitive people. So this literally cut me. It literally sliced me on the face. And I was like, please, I'm not ready. Like, give me a second, and I have to like stop. This movie's very powerful. And then, like, the end of this movie, when they find the first little boy and he tells everything, he said, I killed the cleaner. Okay, and I cut his body up and I ate pieces of him. And there's like trickles of cannibalism all through this movie, and every time it's mentioned, like when Mircha was telling the story, and the guy, she didn't know he was possessed until he started puking up the bodies of his family that he ate all over them. I wanted to
Yeah.
die. That's the most horrific thing that I can imagine ever.
Capitalism makes you eat everyone you love. You have to do that in order to, thrive. That's that honestly, like the only
Also,
way
I'm
you're
scared
a
of
good
capitalism.
capitalist is if you fucking cut the throat of everyone beneath you. That's how you become a millionaire or a billionaire, is you cut their throat and like literally, cannibalize them. It's an
Stop.
just
I'm
like
gonna
so
throw up.
many levels. Like this, the lore building, fucking amazing. The symbolism, amazing. The visuals, amazing. The script, amazing. Just like everything about this movie. This
Amazing.
is, I hate to say it, this may be a 5 cheddar.
Oh,
This
it's a
may be
five.
the only 5. I don't know that I've done it before, but
It's a
I think
five.
this might be better even than Noroi. And Noroi is like one of my favorite movies of all time. This might be up there. Oh man.
Wait, there's more. Because that's not where my heart that's not where my
Oh
heart stops. Because they Jair is back to his normal behavior. There's a clip that's inserted in the middle of all of the madness where he walks in normal as shit to his
yeah,
grandma and is like, hey, I'm cold. I'm gonna need, and immediately she's like, fuck, okay? Because this boy is a demon. And when his dad finally gives him his goddamn apple ice cream,
yeah,
he starts coughing up chunks of his grandma's hair and her necklace. And when he's putting the pieces together in his mind and he looks at his son and his son makes eye contact with him, I swear on everything I love, my soul left my body and came back in. That's the scariest thing. Like, can you imagine? I just changed your shitty diaper before I went on a freaking demon hunt, and you're conscious, and there's a demon in there. And there's so this is the way that they come together after all these realizations that they lost everything and this boy ate their mom. It's the deepest feeling of hopelessness and what do I do now? I could just die I've ever felt watching a movie.
This, if I could, I would give this over 5. I
Yeah,
really would.
yeah.
It's I would actually say it's perfect in terms of filmmaking, and it did help that I watched Troll 2 before it, but
Yeah.
it's still managed it still managed to make me just so much. I lost hope in filmmaking and then I got it back.
Molly, that just made me so happy. This movie, this is this is my I have to like redo my top horror movies now. This is definitely my favorite possession movie. This
honestly,
movie is
I
I
think
think
so
this
good.
has earned its way into my top 5 horror movies as well.
Yeah.
I
I still like
honestly,
The Black Phone better, but this is
mm,
like this is close on the list. It really is.
for me, like when I came into this, I was like, oh, this is probably like a 4 star. Like I like this. But the more that I discuss it and the more that I pick apart the lore and the symbolism, the more I'm just like so massively impressed. It's so
Mm,
dense. I think that's the thing, is like when I stopped
Yeah.
watching it, I was like, oh, that was good, but I don't know that I liked it. And then
yeah.
like the more I think about it and the more I kind of unravel it, and like I said, I had to watch stuff to explain the lore. I also think that I'm cold is so interesting because
Yeah.
again it's like that the demon settling into the nervous system. It's
Mhm.
it's so interesting on a scientific level, on an esoteric level, on a symbolic level. Looking at it is written as something that was a critique of the way that the system is being like torn apart, and is
I know you
tearing
love
people
that shit.
apart. I love it. I didn't even have to like read it into this one. Usually I'm reading it into everything. I'm the one who's coming in with the Marxist critique, but this one was actually, and I don't know that he was coming at it from a leftist point of view. He was just coming at it from a humanitarian, like, this is what I'm seeing in my environment, and it's hurting people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very effective in every
Oh
way.
yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
the storytelling is amazing. And also you have two absolutely unlikable characters. And this is what I'm saying. You can have unlikable characters that have an arc and are fleshed out characters, and they can tell a great story, but you have to
Hmm.
actually like put the work into the characters. Most of the time you just have
Yes.
unlikable characters that are just like cardboard. I don't.
Hmm. Because you still root for them. Like you ultimately, like you
Yes.
root for. I mean, like
I
I
even
was.
was like, Leo, you fucking asshole. Let him
Yeah.
go
No,
listen
Let him
to
keep
yeah,
the
him.
kids.
you don't
But
root
I
for
mean,
them. You don't root for them because you want them to survive.
no.
You want,
But their
because if it's for
kids,
their
the grandma.
yeah, it's for everyone else. It's for the world, and it's also
Hmm.
because they're not. They're three-dimensional and they're more relatable than most horror movie protagonists because they're
Yes.
kind of fuck ups and terrible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you sort of go, oh, I can. You don't see yourself in them, but you know people like them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they aren't designed to come into this apocalypse and stop it with some great purpose. Like this is no, there's no prophecies involved. They are
No.
just the people that are there at the wrong time and are now responsible for making the world better or stop it going getting worse.
At
And
least their
they fail.
corner. At least their corner of the world. And like, let's be for real. When the apocalypse happens, we don't have the Avengers. So this is really like it's just us thugging it out,
Yeah.
and we're just regular beings.
Yep.
Well, Elle will. She'll know how to do the
Hell no.
things. Yeah.
If the
What
And I,
if
apocalypse
I'm,
happens,
if
I'm
it's
running towards the
demons?
apocalypse. I'm not
No.
dealing with demons,
Why do you
bitch.
know how?
I,
You
in
know.
theory.
Yeah.
I got animals everywhere. Oh my god, what if the
So,
demon possesses the tarantula?
what about the 5,000 stray cats that hang out at my house and my 3 cats inside? I am a crazy cat lady. If the rule is don't be around animals, I'm fucked.
I have
Oh
so many
yeah.
sheep.
Well, if it's Apocalypse by the Mummy, in that movie with Brendan Fraser, he was scared of cats. So I don't know.
There's
If
just a
if
lot.
I'm in the mummy, I'm running away with Brandon Fraser.
Yeah.
I'm running away with Rachel.
I'm like running away with most of the. I think most of the people in that movie are attractive as fuck. Now that I think about it,
That is the
Yeah.
most bisexual movie to ever
Yeah,
bisexual.
Emotep,
Ooh.
the only bald man I'll simp for.
I'm just going out and I'm going out with a bang,
yeah.
literally.
Literally. Okay, all right, let's not.
I
Stop being
This,
horny on the podcast, everybody.
I mean, maybe other episodes. This one, there's nothing horny about this
no.
Oh
episode.
God,
It's
no.
very traumatic, and I love that I was traumatized as fuck, still came back for more and gave this a 5. And
Yeah.
like literally, it could be a 10. Literally, this movie, I oh, I'm so happy everybody likes it because I'm like, if I'm the only one who likes this movie, I'm crazy. I'm
No.
crazy.
You I don't see how anyone how it's
I'm gonna
physically
look. I'm gonna
possible
look
to
for the
dislike
critics
this
later.
movie. Oh,
Man, and be
critics
like,
just
this. My name's Stephanie, and this is why you're a bitch and wrong.
Well, I feel like if you're just going in and you're just watching it, and especially if this isn't if you're English, you're English speaker, and you have to read it,
Hmm.
and you don't really think about it, and you just sit in it, and you're like, this is gross. The story is really hard to kind of put together because there's a lot of lore around it. Like, there was obviously like an initial infection, and it sounds like it was brought in based on the lady's Mitra. her story, it sounds like,
Mhm.
you know, she was kind of like the leader of a church that was like just there for the money, and it sounds like the
Yeah.
churches brought these demons into people, and like they spread this pestilence, and then they had this like, you know, group of cleaners that were like kind of like mystical workers that went out and like
Mhm.
beat it back. But now there's like all these little like hot spots out in these different areas where these demons were getting back in, and the cleaners are getting killed because the demons are finding ways to get around and kill the cleaners. And so now we're like at a different spot in the war, and all of that is kind of hard to put together, really,
Yeah.
especially if you're just
It
sitting there and
is.
you're trying
I
to watch
started,
it
the more
casually.
we talk about it, the more I initially did like it, but discussing it, actually, it really does, when you're sort of piecing this stuff together, it does make you like it more,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
and it is sort of a shame that, I mean, of course, like if it's going to be in Spanish, like if the person who's making it in speaks Spanish, then it's going to
Yeah.
be in Spanish. But it is kind of annoying that it's subtitles, because I'm so busy reading that sometimes you do sort of miss the action on the screen, and
Yeah.
I would never watch a dub because that's just cruel.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that because
Yeah.
most people are like, oh, but dub is no, like
Yeah.
not gonna do. But this is also why I say like foreign horror is, I'm always gonna say it, foreign horror is elite. And
Mm.
I highly encourage anybody who's gonna like dive into that, watch the movie a second time. Like watch
Yeah.
it a couple of
I'm gonna have to
times.
watch it a second time
Especially if
and a
you're
third time.
neurospicy, because I feel like
Yeah.
that puts us at a little bit more of like we're
Yeah.
just working a little harder to process it in the moment, because I'm like Molly, we're like I was like but the more I discuss it, and like I watched a couple of videos this morning while I was getting ready to just kind of like explain it to me a little bit more, the more I'm like, holy shit, this is genius.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really the thing, and you realize how much they're doing with, again, like a normal
Yeah.
runtime. Exorcist
Such a
believers.
Yes.
such a good
Re-
one time. Fuck
Mhm.
yeah.
you, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, you know, that rewatching this actually makes me like the first Omen less. That's more of like no, I enjoy it, you know. Everything I said I stand by it. But like when I say like that's a classic, I hadn't seen the original Omen since I was a kid, and I still
Yeah.
consider it to be like one of the classic horrors. It's one of those where you're like, damn, I love everything. I love what they did here. It meshes in with the original so well. Love it. It's a banger, but I put it back on the shelf, and it's probably not one I'm going to revisit unless I'm doing a an Omen marathon.
Hmm.
This is different. This is like close to my heart. This is a banger. Like
Hmm.
this is a comfort to me because it's just even though it's gross and it's like even though I was traumatized, like
Yeah.
this is a comfort to me because this is the reason why I love horror. Like I want you to make me like feel something, and then when we talk about it, I it means something. Like the work here is highly appreciated. So I'm gonna keep appreciating it.
I
Hmm.
also hate the trope. This is a little minor thing. I hate the trope where you think everything is fine, and then, oh, there's a little cliffhanger where the demon's not actually gone. I like it when it's clear that it's fucked up and it
Yeah.
just keeps going and getting slightly worse, and you're sitting in how bad it is.
You know what's funny? This reminds me of like, okay, so I go out to a lot of shows. I write a column for Sage Cigarettes about like the shows I go out to. The funny thing
Plug.
that this reminds me of is there is like an entire like a genre of band now that is like, we don't do encores. We just tell you this is the end of the show, and we're not going to play games with you and come back out for an encore. That's what this is doing. This is writing it out through the end of the show and not coming back for the encore like a
Oh
lot
my
of
god.
movies do. And I too hate that, because then it like leaves you there where there's like not a tight resolution. And in some
Yeah.
stories where the storytelling wasn't great, it's kind of, it's not great. It's not the best way to
It
Yeah.
leave
just
the
seems
movie.
cheap because it just like, oh, you're just putting that in there. Like you could have ended the movie 5 minutes ago, but
Yeah.
you want a sequel, so you're just plugging this in here, even though it doesn't make any sense because we watched it leave. And if
Yeah.
Yeah.
it had lived, you would all be dead.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
wouldn't be alive for a sequel. You would be dead.
Yeah.
And this is
I hope
most
that they
possession
don't.
movie.
I hope they don't make a sequel of this movie. This movie is perfect. A lot of times when there is a sequel,
Yes.
I just expect it to not be good. And it could surprise me and be great, but like, please let this be a contained
Yeah.
thing.
I feel like this would be so much less effective if it had a sequel because
Yeah.
it's just
You can one and done a thing. You
You
can.
can. And see, that is the other thing. That's like what I was arguing with The Exorcist at the end of that is like, let's just write a new script. Let's do a different story. Or like take this story. You can be inspired by this story and write something unique that is like in the spirit of it as well, because I think it is
Yeah.
like an incredibly well done movie. You can definitely be
Hmm.
inspired by this and take other influences in and write a completely unique piece of art. The problem
Hmm.
is we have too many reboots, we have too many sequels, we have too many of all this other crap because like capitalism, it's capitalism.
Yeah.
They don't want to take a risk on new things. They want
Yeah.
something that is a sure thing, even though they've got the fucking money, because it's all about exponential expansion, which is what these demons are about. They're
But
getting in there, they're eating everyone up, they're
yeah. If they make a
moving
sequel,
in.
it would be against the spirit of this movie.
Yes.
yes. Also, though, for The Exorcist, I don't really understand there being a sequel because the second book was garbage.
Oh,
It
it
wasn't
was.
good. It
I didn't
wasn't
finish
good.
it. I didn't get past all the old man fish in the bathtub shit.
No, they threw. I feel like they threw Father Carrison at the end of that book to like as a Hail Mary, but like it wasn't enough.
No.
No. And in the meantime, you can find this podcast on the interweb at ghostinthemagazine.site, or you can find it on Instagram at GITM Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Steph Spector.
You can find me at Nocturnical.
You can find me at nighttime_T.
Okay, bye.